and I'm slipping the moccasins over the cracked skin of his feet. Topographical maps bearing the marks of places he's been. Baby shoes in Boston, brown feet on the Red River's sandy banks, soft leather brogues on the cold streets of Sault Ste. Marie. Then I shift his legs, spindly, after weeks in bed, and the green cotton gown rides up, revealing the place where the clear tube leaves him, snakes down into the plastic sack, browning with the waste of his body. He's so light that with one arm I lift him, and he pauses, arms hanging over my shoulders, and looks around the room with what I imagine is wonder at the sudden uprightness of the world. And then we are walking slowly in step with each other down the hospital corridor, one of his arms over my shoulder, the other on the cart that holds the oxygen canister. And with one hand I steady the cart, and the other the bag of piss swings. And I think of those times during my childhood, grocery shopping with my mother, when she let me push the cart, my hand beside hers on the metal bar. Oh, I would concentrate so hard that this might be one thing important, one thing to help, as I am helping now, moving down the hallway with my grandfather. And as we pass the open doorways, I notice he does not look in exactly, but pauses almost imperceptibly before the large flat diamonds of light on the floor, the harsh light of a prairie winter coming through the windows in patient's room. And if it is true that what is captured in the mind remains the same, then perhaps what he hesitates over on the polished gray floors are the prairie winters of his youth. Without asking, I have no way of knowing this. Because I know that for him just moving is tiring enough, I'm silent, my mind returning to the light of his past, as I have held it since 10th grade history class, not flat and steady, but flickering, black and white in those films from the 30s. The prairie, a broad, dusty tabletop full of ramshackle cars, jerking across the screen. Faces furrowed like the empty field, tire marks left in the chaos of dust. In truth, I watched little else of those films, preferred instead to whisper with my friends. But there was one time when the screen held us all, a close-up of a boy our age, wearing flat cap and breeches, scowling into the camera, mad as hell to be lining up for bread, when just last year his dad's acres spanned whole continents of wheat in his mind. But if my grandfather's youth was that boy, I'll never know. For even at this late stage in his life, his old-time prairie pride that prevents him from halting for more than a quick breath at the first diamonds of light his skin has felt in weeks. Pride for the old woman who spends her days yelling at the nurses for more food. Pride for the man who complains loudly the doctors poisoning him. Pride for the woman who calls out to a family and never comes. If it's for anyone, I think it's for these people. My grandfather's pause is as slight as a whispered secret. The kind a lover breathes late at night in a bath for some reason you can never know. When her hands take hold of the soft sponge, the bar of soap, and in the bald light of the bathroom's too small tub, she rises up from the water, runs the sponge along the length of your arms, leading into you, so that her breasts swing out close to your lips, and you think of taking a nipple in your mouth, but giving way instead to some sense of decorum, decide against it. And for this, then, or some other reason, she smiles. Just as my grandfather smiles now, and I help him stand in the white-tiled shower room after I've removed the green gown, and he leans into me, and the water splashes down, soaking my hair, my shirt, and his naked body. And when I pick up the soap and begin, my hands move slowly over the places he points to. I try to imagine the way he might do it. I do not ask how it feels when I rub the dark bruises made by daily needles in the crooks of his arms. I do not ask because this is simply a job to be done. The way those prairie people in the flickering movies of our minds did the things they had to, silently, to stay alive. and my hands, graceful in their ignorance, move over his body, not knowing this was a rehearsal for something they will witness later in a Vancouver hotel room when the hands of another person will dance over my body, because this was right now. And right now the knowledge my hands carry of how this dance will disappear and return in my life is hidden well enough to keep us both, the old man and me, still moving in my mind. Two dancers in the smallest hours, in the farthest corner of a dimly lit bar, are slow turning in one spot, a kind of contemplation of wheat fields, water, snow, skin, and dust. Thank you.